Hey everyone, welcome to Green Learner. So this video I am going to talk about key tag filter plus Spring Boot. This topic is very much important with respect to performance and efficiency. And this is the first topic under this hashtag random but awesome. Usually on this channel, if you see, I have uploaded the tutorial series, right? If it is about Spring Boot, microservices and other topics, right? But this is different from that. So this will be solving a unique problem that we face on daily to daily basis in software development, right? So to solve a problem, I have to think myself, and I have to dig into the internet also to solve that problem. I will try to consolidate those things from the internet and from my thinking also, and will try to present the solution. And I hope some of you will find it useful also, and you can also share your ideas with me so that we can make it better, right? So this is the first topic that I have selected for this series, which I have come across recently and found it very useful. So let's go ahead and see the different things under this that I'm going to cover, right? So this is the agenda for that I'm going to explain. This is the problem statement. First, I'm going to talk about this. Then we will see understanding the E tag, that is one solution for this. And then we will see what are the use cases that we are going to cover in the demo part. And then we will jump into the demo. So this is our client. First example is this is our client, which is any web browser that you have, and it is a web server. When client send request to the server, server responds with content, some content to the client, right? And then browsers render that content into the browser screen, right? The problem here is when a web browser is sending request over the time to the web server, most of the time it happens that it is responding with the same content, right? So if you are on the browser and for example you are refreshing it or sending request again and again, it is responding with the same response to the client browser, and browser is going to get that content and refresh the browser and again. So you see the problem here. The server is responding with the same content all the time, but browser is not able to understand that it is same or not and refreshing it again and again. So we want to solve this problem. I have to have some mechanism so that browser can know that there is no modification in content, right? And I do not have to refresh the browser and again, right? So this is the problem that we want to solve it, right? Let's understand the same problem with the microservice architecture, right? So this is the microservice that I have put in boxes somewhere. So these services are communicating with each other, right? So this is communicating this one, this is communicating this one. So I am going to consider with this one only. Service 1 is requesting service 2 for some content. It is for example, it is a get request and it is responding with the content, and the content that responding is very complex in nature, and client that is here, that service has to process that complex content to get the result out of that and send it further to other services, right? So the same problem here. If the request is going here, for the same request is going here, and the same response is coming back to this service one, and it is going to process the same complex content again, right? So that processing is going to take time. So the same thing, I want to have some mechanism so that I can know that service 2 that is responding to service 1, the response is same that it has earlier sent it, right? So I want to have some mechanism to know that. So one thing can be right, so it can have along with the content that it is sending, it can send some flag, right? So that the client can know that the content is not modified and do not have to process that request. The processed content, you already have it, right? So this is the problem. So pause the video for a second and think of the solution, how you can solve it, right? And then I'm going to present you one solution. So compare it, and if it is different, please put that in comment section so that I can also know the different approach that you're following, right? So let me go ahead and present one solution for you. So first solution is, so when first request is coming here, first request is coming to service 2, it is preparing some response. When service 2 is preparing some response, before sending it to service 1, it can generate some token out of that response. Token, I mean some hash code, right? So when it had, and along with the response, it sends hash code back to client, back to service 1, right? And when request 2 is coming here, so along with the request data that it had, so it is going to send this hash code that it has. Hash code is also going to send to service 2. And with this second request, service 2 is going to prepare response again. There is no difference into that. It is going to prepare the response again, and it will generate the hash code out of this hash code or token, whatever you have generated, and the hash code that it had sent. Now we have two hash code, the hash code that has come into request and the hash code that it has generated again, right? And compare these two hash codes, and if they hash code is same, means the response is same that it has earlier sent to client. So there is no need to send this response back to client, right? So this is the flag that we can send it, and that flag we are going to send with the HTTP status code. Normally when the first request is served, it has responded with the status 200, which means okay, HTTP status okay. Now with the second request, when the response is same as earlier one, it is going to respond with 304, which is not modified, which means not modified. Now client knows that there is no change in response and there is no response from the service 2. There is no need to process the response, right? So we can save that processing time from the client itself. So this is the one way that we can do with the service as well and with the client. So before proceeding to demo, let me give you a few points about e-tag that we have talked about. So e-tag means entity tag, right? So it is used for caching of unchanged sources on the browser side that we have, and validation also it can help in validating. Validation in the sense, if I talk about the Wikipedia page, that if you are editing some content on the Wikipedia page and you have to and the server has to when you send the request to save that edited content to server, it has to save that. It is the server and it is the Wikipedia page that you are editing, right? And for all the content that it had saved, it can have a tag, that e tag, as always. So again, when you are sending for the save request, it can compare those tag values. If it is same only, then it is going to save the new content that you have requested. Otherwise it is going to discard that, and it can save time that it is taking to save that new content, right? This can save some time. Coming to next point, HTTP status 304, I already have told you, this means not modified, and 412 means precondition failed. Whatever you are sending, this is failed. 412 means the content that you've requested is already saved for this particular example that I have talked about, right? There is one more, this keep this in mind. If none match, this is the header with the request that browser sends when you're using e-tag. Browser has inbuilt functionality. If I talk about the Chrome for example, that I'm experimenting with, so if none match is the header that is sent automatically. Now let's talk about the use cases that we are going to cover. So first, with the Spring Boot, I'm going to have some front-end code and going to use the template engine. Then we are going to jump into REST services, right? And in the REST services also, if you have multiple endpoints, right? So if you want to apply this e-tag filter with a specific endpoint, how we can do that, I'm going to cover that also, and how we can customize the e-tag hash code generation, right? So usually if you rely on the library, Spring library itself, it is going to generate the hash code internally using MD5, but you can have this token generation as per your requirement. I'm going to explain all of this one by one, right? Let me take you the IntelliJ IDEA and create the project from scratch. So this is the IntelliJ IDEA where I'm going to create the project for this one. So we have different option. I'm going to choose the Spring Assistant here, right? So next it is going to initialize for us. So group id, you can have anything. These are the some details that just I'm going to fill it. Project type, you can have I'm going to have Gradle project, you can have Maven also. That is not an issue. It is nothing to do with the, it is your choice of the build tool that you are using. So Java jar, it's same. So project name, I want to have same. So etag filter demo, that's it. So dependency, what I want web. First dependency that I want is Spring Web. Next, I want template engine. I want Thymeleaf for this. You can use other as well. For the front end code, I am choosing this template engine, right? So choose next. So if you are comfortable with the location, otherwise you can change it. So I'm going to change it, right? So I have changed the location and I'm just going to finish it. Downloading project Gradle wrapper task. So I'm going to take this one. So if I open it, I can have this one, right? So I think there is some problem with IntelliJ IDEA. When I create the project like this, I have to once close it and open it again. Only then it is going to detect the Gradle project. Usually it happens when you open the Gradle based project, any build tool, IntelliJ IDEA is automatically going to detect that. But there is some problem as of now. Maybe with my IntelliJ IDEA, right? So this, let's check the project structure here that it has created. So it has created this one properly. So let me write the controller for that. Java class etag demo. I have controller now. So I want to write some front-end code for this. So I have to put the controller annotation here, right? So next I have to write some model and view here. Hello, so that I can have return model and view. I have this one. So add object. So I want to add name here, which I will pass to the HTML page that I am going to create here. So I want to have here name, pass it name here, and return model and view. That is it. So here I have to give the endpoint name here, right? And hello, and I'm going to use the path variable for that, right? So name path variable, right? So it is going to map this one, right? So name, it is going to match with that. So I'm done with the endpoint, right? So now I have to create the index space for that, right? So return model and view index, I have to name that, and this one I have to index.html I have to create here. So this is the content of the index.html that I already had written, and I'm just pasting it. So the main important thing is here. So hello name. So the name that I have added here, it is going to pass to this index.html internally when we have added Thymeleaf engine. So the Spring is going to resolve that one internally and going to pass the name here. When we will get the index.html, we will get the exact name here, right? And with the some static content that is here. So this is what I want out of this endpoint that we are going to have, right? And now we are done with this one. I have to now talk about the etag filter, right? So I have to create, so see how easy it is to create the etag filter, right? So we have shallow etag header filter for that, right? So I have to create a bean out of that. So return new shallow etag filter header here, and annotate it with B, right? So that's it, we are done. So when Spring Boot context, Spring application context is going to detect that I have the instance of shallow E tag filter header filter here, so it is going to take care of the E tag functionality automatically that we have just discussed, like adding the hash code, comparing that hash code, and all those stuffs, right? So for the sample application, we are done here. If I start application right here, so let's wait for the application to start. It is going to pick the default port, that is 8080, and it is going to start up. So application is ready for us on port 8080. So before hitting the endpoint, let's open the network tab so that we can see the status code of the request that we are sending here, right? So we have localhost here, hello. For name, I'm passing Green Learner, right? So just before sending that request, let's clear this tab again and hit this and inspect this request. So this is the content. This is first one is our document. This is related to the browser. It is coming from the extension, right? So I'm interested in this endpoint, right? So if I come here, it has responded with the status 200, and see what is the response header here. Keep alive and all this information, and what is my interest here is in E tag. So it has returned me some hash code value here, E tag, right? Keep alive time is this. So these are all the request headers here that you can see, but my interest is here. So this is the first request that it had sent, and it has, the server has responded with this E tag value. When I create one request again, that request will be sent along with this hashtag E tag, right? So if I refresh this again, this is the second request that I am getting, and you can see the status code is 304. Let's inspect this one. Now the status code is 304, which is not modified, right? If I come here, response header, few information is coming here, Green Learner. If I come here, it has keep alive and all those information, but now it has only this information along with the E tag information that it has earlier sent. But when I come under the request header, what request is sent to the browser, what request is sent to the server, it has all the information along with this information, if none match header, right? This information, this E tag value is same as this one. So internally it compares that if none match header, if none, browser sends, actually browser prepares this if none match header and sends to the server, right? So it is the browser kind of functionality that it is going, E tag information, it is going to put that under the if none match value. So now question is, if server has not responded with any content, how we are seeing the content here on the browser? So it is using the browser cache to use to get the content out of that. So that is why it is we are seeing here. So if I show you the same request with the Postman, then it will make more sense. So let me go to the Postman and see the same request. And before proceeding to Postman, if I change this value, the response that we are getting out of that, right? So it will be again 200, right? That response is matters, right? So now it is changed. It is going to take care of that internally. If I hit this again we are getting 304. So when the content of the response is changing, only then it is going to be applicable, right? So now let's go to the Postman and see. So this is the Postman, and this is the get URL that I'm going to put here. This string I'm passing here, right? So if I send it, so we are getting this response with status code 200, right? And if I come here under header, we are getting all this information along with this one, right? And if I send it again we are getting 200 response, right? If I as many times I'm sending it here, I'm getting the 200. It is not same as the browser, right? So browser was sending some request headers, browser was preparing request header if none match out of this E tag. In Postman I have to do that manually, right? So let's come here and prepare that E tag that it was sending. So copy this one, if none match here, and copy this content, entire content here, and paste it under value, right? And now we are going to send it again. Now we got the response 304 not modified, and there is no response, there is no body here, right? Because server has not responded with anything but 304. So we are not getting response from the server if it is same when we are using e tag information, right? In the browser we are seeing the content because it is stored in the browser cache, right? And it is showing the content out of that, and that is obvious that in browser I have to see something. This is about when you have some front-end code and you are hitting the server with browser, it is going to do this automatically. But when you have REST endpoints, how you are going to do that? So let me create few REST endpoints and do this again. So coming to project here, so I'm going to create one more controller here, REST endpoints, right? So REST controller, name it REST controller, and I want to return some string here, right? So this is what I want to return. So name I have to pass here string name, right? So I want to make it dynamic. Get mapping rest, I'm naming it, and here I'm passing name. So here I have to give path variable, right? So our REST endpoint is ready here, and we already have this e tag filter, right? So it is going to apply in REST this case also, right? So I if I restart the application, because we have new class and endpoint here, so here, right? So we have this, clear this, coming to browser, go to here localhost. Before doing this, open the network tab as earlier, right? So we are good here. So the new point that we have REST, before hitting this, clear console again and hit this. It is responding with the status 200, right? So see the here, so response, it is coming again with the e tag information, right? And if I refresh this again, the content is same, that is why it is responding with the status 304. If I open this one, I can see if none match right here. So it is same, whether you are doing the front end code or REST endpoint, if you are hitting from the browser, it is same. Or if you are doing the communication, programmatically you are doing it. If I take you to the Postman again, right? So this is the REST, and this is the new endpoint that it has. So it is responding me with this one. So header information that it is giving, the e tag information is changed here, so I have to update it here. If I hit this again, I'm not going to get any response out of that. So the same thing, if you are calling programmatically one service from another service, so with the each request you have to include this header if none match with the value of the e tag that it has responded with the previous request, right? So that it can compare, right? So this is how it is applicable with the front end and REST endpoints. So let me take you to the other use case, that if you want to customize the endpoint, this generation, this tag value generation, how we can do that. So coming to application again, so create one more endpoint for that, right? Get mapping, have response entity, and I want to keep it a string. So name, I want to name. So what it is going to return new, not new, response entity with the status okay, right? And with e tag information, see response entity already has this e tag information, right? So for e tag, what e tag value you want, right? So for example, I want this name to be the e tag, right? And then I have to mention some body also, right? So what is the body I want? I want hello plus name. So this is just for an example that I'm taking extremely simple examples, right? So just format it a bit so that it looks nice. So here I am responding with the name hello name. I am naming. So now e tag generation is custom. It will be according to me. E tag information will be the name that we are passing. So I can have any logic and pass it under here e tag, right? So let's restart the application and see this in action. So now the server is running. Go to browser and hit this new endpoint, and again before hitting the endpoint, open the inspect network tab so that we can see the information. Localhost we have custom, right? And name, I'm naming it name. Oh, so there is a lot of information here. We are interested in this one. So other calls are from the previous request, right? So network call, if I see here 200 e tag information, we are interested in this one. So now it is the name that we are sending here, right? So if I clear this again and change this name 123, it will be the new request, and we are getting it here, right here, right? So 203 with the e tag information 123, right? And these are the request header. There is no if none match. If I refresh this again, browser is going to add that header, right? If I come here, now it is added if none match have been 123 and the status code is 304. Same is applicable if I hit this with the postman, right? So this is about when you want to customize the e tag value, e tag logic that it is generating it. Now coming to the third use case, when you have many endpoints and you want to apply this e tag filtering to specific endpoints, how we can do that? So let's go ahead and do that. So for that I have to create one bean again. So I have to comment it out, which is directly injecting the filter into the application context. So we have filter registration bean, right? So this type I have to pass filter e tag here, filter registration bean. Now create the instance of this filter registration bean. Okay, so we are here. I have to pass shallow bean here, new filter registration bean, and I have to pass the instance of shallow e tag filter. So at in any way I have to have the instance of the shallow e tag filter header. So now what we are wrapping the instance of this into filter registration bean, right? So that we can add additional filter here, bean dot add URL patterns. So what patterns I want? So one thing to point out here, so I have two endpoints here, right? So this is the this one I have left it to be handled by the framework itself, but in this mapping I have manually included the e tag information, right? So filtering is not going to work in this case, right? Filtering is not going to filter this response because you are manually going to add the e tag information, right? So this should we keep in mind, but we can play around with this one, right? So because it is being handled by the filter itself, right? So just to play around, let me go ahead and create more endpoint, one more endpoint here. So name it I random name 123, and I want rest 12, and the response I want hello 123 name. So just I want to change the thing so that I can play around with the filtering thing, right? So now coming here, so I have now it is already going to be under the e tag, right? So because we have added here with these two one, I want the e tag information to be taken care in the REST 1 to endpoint, right? So I'm going to add REST 1 2 and star. So this is the URL pattern that I have to give here, and we then set name of the filter, etag filter, and return the bean, return the instance that you have created, right? So @bean annotation is there and all this information is here, and I think we are done here. So just stop application, start it again. So keep in mind now REST 1 2 and custom, these two will be under etag, others not, right? So coming to browser, so if I take example of this one existing REST, this one, so if I hit this one and come to here and see under the response header there is no information about the etag, right? If I hit again and again, so there is going to no change, 200 response all the time. Now talk about the new endpoint that we introduced 1 2, right? Hit here. So we forgot to add this inspect information here. We can clear the cache again, so that it's all about the cache, right? So the header information is stored in the cache. If I clear that again, so it will be considered a fresh new request without any etag, all other information, right? So I'm hard reloading this. So this is the first request that we are sending, and etag information I can see here, right? So this is what I have I wanted to show you, and again if I hit again, I'm getting a 304 response, right? So now this REST 1 2 is going to be honored. And one more thing I can show you, this green learner information, right? So till now it was giving me the if I 200 response, this is the first request, and if I hit again, it is again 200, right? It is again 200, right? And if I hit this custom one, clear this one again and hit this again, 304, because we are not modifying anything, and we also have not included this here in the filter, but as I explained you, we have added manually the etag information here. That is why it is coming here. So that's all about the use cases that I wanted to cover under the etag filtering. I hope you learned something, you're going to apply it in the project and get some application efficiency and time improvement, latency improvement also. Do leave your feedback in the comment section below, and if you see any issue, any problem around this, you can always ask me in the comment section, or you can connect me on the Facebook page and other platforms as well, right? All the source code I'm going to push on the GitHub, and link will be given in the description box, right? So I'll see you in the next video with yet another random topic, right? So take care, bye bye, stay home, stay safe.